Welcome, everybody, to the Friar Talk podcast. Today, we're going to be recapping the Houston Astros series. Then, we're going to be previewing the Chicago Cubs. And unfortunately, we're going to have a full segment about Blake Snell. So, we'll get into him after all that. But let's just start with this Houston Astros series. I think the biggest thing that stands out, Fernando Tatis in one of the best comebacks of the season. I thought that Saturday game was something really, really special to cap off the fourth consecutive extra inning games. And then we kind of saw that, affect Sunday's game a little bit when Musgrove had to come in for 5 innings. But overall, I think that was just the highlight of the series. And I think that's probably the highlight of the season up to this point. I mean, I know the Dodgers series was super cool. That comeback was amazing. But to hit a 3-run home run with 2 outs in the ninth inning where you have two guys on, that was something special. So I'll let you start out, Isaac. What was just your overall thoughts on your series, and what was the feeling when Fernando hit that bomb on Saturday?
Well, when that bomb happened, before that bomb happened, we saw I forgot his name, the first baseman. He misplayed a fly ball big time. And after that, I said, if there's one guy you don't want to give an extra pitch to, it's Fernando. And next thing you know, he's hitting it to the train tracks. And it was definitely it was probably the second most hype moment of the season after Eric Hosmer's sac fly to bring in Fernando and beat the Dodgers down by 6. But I think, another guy I said that I'd pick, but I take it back. Tommy Pham had an amazing series. It seemed like each game he had like 2 hits. I'm not positive on that, but he was getting on base like 2 or 3 times each game. Played great defense, just an overall amazing series for Tommy Pham. And I think he was a huge reason as to why we won the first 2 games, because he was constantly getting on. Definitely those 2 guys, I know Fernando didn't get a ton of hits, but he had some really key moments in the series, and that was really good to see. But I think another thing that has to get brought up is just the adversity of this team. They have the fight in them. They never want to lose. Even if they're down by 6, they're not the kind of team that's just going to throw in like a Nabil Chrismat. You saw today they throw in Joe Musgrove because they want to win. Even if they're down by 6, they have the confidence to go in there day in and day out, and they believe no matter how much they're down by, they can win the ball game.
And then I think another guy that we have to mention is Myers. Well, Myers is starting to come back. He had 2 home runs this series. One of them was in extra innings to kind of just secure the lead. Then the other one, I don't think it really changed the game that much. I think it was today. So unfortunately, we did lose today. And Blake Snell continues to somewhat disappoint us. Really upset that Musgrove kind of had to waste his 5 solid innings just kind of going out today. I'd really rather seen it against the Cubs. And that just kind of shows how taxed this bullpen is coming into, the Cubs series. Playing 4 extra inning games in a row, that's going to kill your bullpen arm. So I kind of see why I had to use Musgrove. And hopefully we see, these next 3 guys come out and go 6 innings because our bullpen needs it.
Yeah, no, that's something that's definitely been taking its toll. And I know we were talking about that a little bit when we talked about the starters, just when talking about the 6-man rotation versus the 5-man rotation. And I was saying that the 6-man rotation can potentially kind of affect that in a negative way. And one of the things that we were saying that Isaac, you brought up is like the one guy that's slated in the number 2 spot is Blake Snell, and he hasn't gone a lot of innings. And then we saw that on Sunday, which, I mean, it's unfortunate. I mean, Blake Snell's definitely been struggling a lot. I think that I hope there's room for improvement, and we're going to talk about him a ton, but it's definitely taken its toll on the bullpen. And when you don't have enough arms that you have to put your starter in down 7 to pitch 5 innings to close out the game, that's never a spot you want to be on. Makes me kind of wonder if they're going to make a move for a longer arm reliever later in the season. And we've seen them use Drew Pomeranz in a similar role, more of a 2-inning role, but a guy that can take on a couple innings, former starter. But he's been hurt pretty much all year. So, you have a lot of guys that maybe could have taken that role that aren't here. I think the only guys in the bullpen that we've really seen that from is Craig Stammen and Nabil Chrismat. Those are pretty much the only 2 guys that have been used like that. I know we saw Ryan Weathers earlier, but they're definitely slating him as a starter now. So that's kind of changed. But I wanted to bring up another guy. The guy I want to bring up is Manny Machado, because it seems like even though he's hitting 233 right now, definitely not playing, typical Manny Machado baseball in terms of what his stat line's at. But I don't think any of us 3 are worried whatsoever. And I think one of the reasons why that's the case is because still, whenever you really need that hit from Manny, he's had it this year. 2 outs, we've seen that from Haas. we've also seen that from Manny. And I was talking to a non-Padres fan. He was like, "Hey, what's up with Manny? Like, I've seen that he's been struggling." And I basically said, like, "Nah, like, don't worry about it. Like, he'll be back to his career averages, by the time the season's over. He's gonna get hot, whatever." And I was like, and honestly, he's come up clutch every time that he's kind of been asked to do so. We also saw him do that on Saturday as well. So got to bring up him. And then to kind of lead into a little bit, brought up the clutch hitting. Chase, I asked you, I want to say it was like 2 weeks ago. I asked you, I asked both of you guys, and I remember you weren't very confident in like it changing. But one of the things I was asking is the runners in scoring position batting just going to improve? Because we were talking about how like the situational hitting was just not there. And I got to revisit it because I think we've seen it just it's improved drastically over these last couple of weeks, in my opinion, where not just, getting hits with guys on base, but getting sac flies, getting sacrifices where guys are moving over. And we've definitely seen it on the base running side. But what about this just, sudden change and just like, hey, we're going to move the guy over. We're going to get runs in no matter what. Because I think that's just stood out. And I think that's really why the biggest reason why the Padres have been winning so much lately. So Chase, you can start out with that. Why is that changing? Why do you think that's the case?
Well, I think that we're all seeing that everybody's somewhat coming back and healthy. Manny Machado's a little dinked up, or some of our guys at the lower end of the lineup are actually starting to hit. We saw Kim, with the 2-run shot. Profar has been a little bit of an RBI machine at the bottom of the lineup when he hits there. If not, he gets on base at the top, setting up those guys. With the emergence of Will Myers back, he's hit 2 home runs. That brings in a ton of runs, or, he'll hit a double, to bring people in, or just get a single. Machado, has been coming up clutch in certain situations. Tatis has just been killing the ball on every side. Haas is there too. Everybody's sort of just clicking at the same time. And when you have everybody clicking at the same time, you're going to be able to put up all those comebacks, all those runs. But when it's not, you kind of see with the Sunday game that not everything was there. People may have gotten on, but the hitting wasn't coming around. It's not going to be there every game, but when it's there, the Padres are going to win those games.
Yeah, pretty much just touching on what Shay said. They're finally starting to hit the damn ball when it matters. I mean, it's pretty simple. I remember in the first series against, I bring up the Dodgers a lot, but that first Dodgers series, I remember there were a handful of times, even in extra innings, where they could have easily won the ball game, but they let the Dodgers hang in there and they got smoked in the first game. And it was, and then you had another instance the very next game, in the second game. Unfortunately for Tommy Pham, Mookie Betts made an amazing play, but things are starting to fall, and I remember specifically the first game, bases loaded, Fernando strikes out. This time, runners second and third, Fernando hits a freaking towering moonshot to I think it was tie the game, right? To tie the game. And, everyone's just finally starting to come around, like Chase said. Eric Hosmer's been an RBI machine all year, and Tommy Pham was a huge component early on why the runs weren't being brought in. And now he's starting to come around, and now the runs are starting to come around. So, with Tommy Pham, I think Matt showed us like the splits earlier of when he bats top of the lineup, when he bats bottom of the lineup. He is significantly better at the top of the lineup. So, you can argue that you want to have Grisham and Cronenworth there, but you can also argue you want to go Grisham, Pham, and then you want to have arguably one of your top 4 hitters batting 7th when Fernando's on, Hosmer's on, Myers is on. And honestly, with how talented this lineup is, I don't really feel like lineup placement is going to matter all that much.
Yeah, so to kind of go back to Tommy Pham, he's a guy that's been hitting really good at the top of the lineup. And maybe that's part of the reason, you're not having him hitting, what was it? I want to say that the chart kind of showed us like when he hits 4 and 5, it was really bad. But if he's hitting 1 and 2, he's hitting like I think it was 260 and then 280 when he was hitting at the 2 spot. So he hits in that top of the order where he's a guy that is getting on base opposed to driving guys in. It's worked out way better. And we've seen Eric Hosmer in that 5 spot. I think Eric Hosmer is money in that 5 spot. Tatis obviously has had a ton of pivotal hits and pivotal home runs out of the cleanup spot. So I think leaving him there for the foreseeable future is definitely the move. And then Machado at 2 and 3 and Cronenworth in the other spot. That's definitely working really well. And that was probably the issue I think that we had with like Tingler and just like what the Padres were doing early on, where it was like the lineups aren't making sense. They're making perfect sense now. Like I love the way they're set up. Every day you kind of know what's coming out. And I think that's been one of the biggest reasons for a lot of positive change for the Padres. Final thing for this recap, though, got to shout out Webby Rivas. Big home run, got his first career hit and first career home run this series, even though he should have had his first career hit on Friday, but he laced one to short. Correa kind of dropped it. I thought it should have been a hit. All the guys in the Padres dugout apparently were like freaking out over it because they thought it should have been hit as well. But big time thing for him. So pretty awesome because I remember he was a 11-year minor leaguer, 30 years old. So super cool to see that moment. So gotta shout him out. But anything else you guys want to add before we kind of move on?
Unsung hero Joe Musgrove for saving the bullpen. Thanks, Blake Snell.
All right, sweet. So I think that's going to do it for this recap. But first time checking us out, make sure to subscribe, follow, do all that. And we'll have a Cubs series out in just an hour or so.